Please go ahead, Deedee, and I'll go after you.
I guess my real issue with this is that, like you said, like the people in here said, words need to have meaning, right? Because you can't have these words up in the air. A good example of this, I guess, could be like if we say trans women are women, this opens up a whole box of questions. Like, why can't these women enter women's spaces? Why can't these women use women's bathrooms? Why can't these women participate in women's athletics and women's competitions? Why can't these women go to women's clinics? And the only answer I can really give you is because they're men. That's why they can't go to women's clinics, because women's clinics do not specialize in men's bodies. And trans rights activists, especially the SJW ones, will tell you, no, it's because the medical industry has demonized black femme bodies, has demonized trans bodies. No, it's because you have a male body and it doesn't belong in a woman's clinic. Like, a gynecologist did not study your body because that was not their specialization. And the real problem here with things like well, women's spaces, women's rights, we're not going to take away women's rights. Well, technically they're right. This does not take away women's rights. Women's rights will still be there on paper. But I just did my first year on law, and they asked me what the law was. And like the textbook definition that I got was, the law is like, part of the state. The state only exists because of the law, and the law can only exist when it is carried out and enforced by the state itself through police entities. For example, we have a law against theft. We can say all we want that we have a law against theft, but unless the law enforces it, like you can call the police when somebody steals on you, you can get the justice system involved, you can take these people to court, and they can be punished by the law for their thefts. That is the only way people will take things like you can't steal seriously. Now, my dad does this thing where he gives me 150 rand a month. That's the currency in South Africa, the rand. He gives me 150 rand a month. He makes a whole show out of putting me on debit order, and I get the money every single month. But here's the catch, though. Every month he comes back home and he wants a newspaper, and he asks Deedee, go buy me a newspaper. He wakes me up early in the morning to drive to the fucking gas station and buy him a newspaper. And guess how much his newspaper costs? 90 rand. That leaves me with 60 rand. And every time I say, oh, can you give me the money to buy the newspaper? He's like, I send you money every single day. And I try to argue with him, but he's like, oh, so you're not grateful? Let me take you off of debit order. Then I'm like, no. I mean, I still want that 60 rand, don't I? But every time I managed to save enough money, and one time I managed to save up to 1,000 rand, and that was like up to discipline with me. And I was so proud. I showed it off. I was like, Dad, look at how disciplined I am. He was like, wow, let me borrow that 1,000 rand. And the fool I am, I let him borrow my 1,000 rand. And then when I asked for it back, I'm like, Dad, I need my money back now. I saved that money. That's my money. He's like, I send you money every single day. Like every single month I send you money. Why can't you be grateful for once? Give me, I can't give you your money. This is my money, da 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 da. And so if I ask the question, is this my money? Is it my money for real? It's a valid question, but chances are I'm going to be gaslit. I'm going to be told, I send you money every single month. And if I say, you know what? Fuck it. Stop sending me money. If it's going to cause this much drama, I'll just make money on my own, because I can't live in this limbo state where I don't know if my money is my money. And if I say shit like that, it's probably going to cause a lot of damage, and it's probably going to start drama that I don't even want. So I just sit there and I take it. And so the question is it really my money? No, not really. And so if I ask the question, are women's rights really women's rights? It's a valid question, because if you can tell me all you want, this space is my space. But if a man can enter that space anytime he feels like it, because that's what trans ideology is, feelings, I feel like a woman, I can argue the question, are these really my rights? Is this really my space? Is it really my money if I can't use it however I feel? Is it really my space if any man can enter it? Because they can say you have the right to sex segregation. And they can put on the whole show of writing this into the Constitution and writing it into the law. The same way my dad puts on the whole show of putting me on debit order and sending me the money. But if the catch is I will use your money however I feel like it, it's not my money. And if the catch to women's rights and women's spaces is men can enter whenever they feel like it, it's not really women's spaces. And people can go like, oh, like you can't tell the difference between trans people. You just want to put genital inspections there. You just want to search and check people's fucking genital inspections, da 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 da. But like, we never did that before, and things worked perfectly fine. And every time a man did enter, and he was caught entering and doing unwanted things or just being there, you could call the police, and the police would come and enforce the law. They would remove that man, and you could take him to court, and he would be punished for what he did. And this would act as a deterrent against other men who would feel like doing the same thing, because then they would be the example of the law. Like, this is what's going to happen to you if you do this. So look at the women at WeSpa. The women at WeSpa, they go and complain at the desk. They're like, there is a man there. He's got his dick out. We don't want him. They remove him. The people are like, we can't. We can't send security to remove him because she is a woman. She is transgender. She identifies as a woman. And then they're like, call the police. Tell somebody to do something. They're like, we can't because that would be transphobic. She has the right to be there. And then some dude, some woke white bro comes in and tries to explain to this black woman that they're being bigoted and wrong and they're not this, that, and the third. But like, in the end, what happens? The women have to leave. The women end up leaving because the man's not about to leave. And they can't sit there and take this shit, so they leave. And this is how they're going to get women out of public spaces. Because women will have absolutely no choice but to leave. And I know this from personal experience because when I was young and I was going through matric, I had to go through to this maths boot camp because I was failing maths and I wasn't about to fail my matric. And so my teacher has to take us to this remote place in a village because like it's the only place he can rent out for a classroom and everything. And I'm like, sure, man, I'll follow you anyway. I'm not about to fail. You're the best teacher I ever had. And I follow him, but the place that we get there, because it's a village and it's a rural area and this is South Africa, there's no working toilets. And the toilets that are there are unsanitary. They're full of shit that's probably a year old because they don't clean those things. And I couldn't use them. I honest to God couldn't use them. Not because I'm a spoiled child, not because I feel like my ass is too good to sit on that toilet seat, but because it's fucking unsanitary and it's full of shit. So I had to stay there from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? Because that's how serious I took my maths. But I couldn't stay there because then I'd have to relieve myself. Like the average human has to relieve themselves once every 2 hours. And the most I could stay there without, embarrassing myself was 4 hours. So I excused myself and I told my teacher, I'm sorry, sir. I have to go after 4 hours. I wish I could stay, but I can't. And he was like, I get it. And so I left. And instead of staying there the full 8 hours my education required, I stayed there 4 hours. And my mom was like, nah, it's just normal for the village schools. You're not used to this because you grew up in the city. And I was like, okay, but then how did you get over it when you were a student? And she was like, when we went into the bushes, Deedee, me and my friends, we had to go to the bushes to relieve ourselves. And then I was like, okay. And then she's like, when I was a teacher too in these village schools, I still went into the bushes. So as a child, she relieved herself in the bushes. And as an adult, my mom relieved herself in the bushes as well. Then I asked my aunt, I was like, Auntie, what did you do? You're younger. You went to a different school altogether. She was like, baby, I walked home. So every break she would walk home to her home so she could relieve herself and then walk back to school. And that's what she did. And so, like, when we say that, like, you're taking away women's right to exist in public, you're gonna take us out of public, this, that, and the third. What we mean is, you offer us no choice but to just not be there. I had no choice but to not be at the school because I couldn't physically stay there without proper means of relieving myself. And the women in WeSpa couldn't exist or stay in WeSpa. They had no choice but to leave because WeSpa prioritized the feelings of a man over their privacy, over their rights to privacy and safety. They just had to leave, and I had to leave, and girls will just have to. They'll say you have the choice. You have the choice to exist in public space. You have the choice to accept trans people. Is it really a choice if the alternative is kidney failure for me? Is it really a choice for me to go to extra classes if the alternative is possibly embarrassing myself and pissing myself in front of everyone? Is it really a choice to be in WeSpa if part of that choice includes being naked in front of a man and that naked man exposing himself in front of your children? It's like when people say sex work is a choice. Like, no one's holding a gun to a woman's head and forcing her to go have sex, da 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 da. But, like, the alternative is her not making rent. And if she doesn't make rent, she'll be homeless. Is it really a choice if the alternative to not doing sex work is homelessness? It's not a choice. Is it really a choice for women to exist in society? Are we making a transphobic choice because we hate trans people and we don't want to be near them, da 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 da, and we're cis bigots and we're TERFs, da 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 da? If the alternative is to just sit there and take it as a man exposes himself, as a man partakes in his fetish and paraphernalia, as a man does whatever the fuck he feels like it, because he feels like it. Those women at WeSpa had no choice but to leave. And you've taken away my rights, effectively. But the right is still there, on paper, in the Constitution. It's an illusion. It's a show, like a magician. You know how a magician makes a whole show, smoke and mirrors, of someone disappearing? That person has not disappeared. It's just an illusion. You've given me the illusion of the right to exist in public, same as any man. You've given me the illusion of women's sex-based rights because it's still there in the Constitution. It's just not enforced. Can't call the police on a man. Okay, I've hogged the mic enough. Please go on, you guys.
Thank you so much, God. Some of you guys speak, and it's like the really, really amazing speakers tonight.